All right, y'all. So last time we saw each other, I talked about how the guilt had consequences, right? I acted on the guilt. I let the guilt stop me. Um, and this was, again, not an immediate stop. It wasn't a cold turkey. Talking about different cold turkey now. Um, it started in college, probably toward the end of my college time. And yeah, so it was gradual because, um, and what I'm talking about is you take so many photos, a lot more photos, and post them. Um, on Facebook, I have like 100 albums. I'm surprised Facebook didn't cap me. I was posting photos so much from like high school and college, um, and yeah, just between band trips and ROTC trips and just all the things. And like I said, I was getting into like photography as an art, so I had like photo shoots of friends that I was taking. And so just there's so many photos. I need to go back down and like download them. And I'm surprised sometimes that Facebook is still here and they haven't like capped us and charged us for our storage. Um, but this was also like, on Facebook you can tag people, and so then people would have could find the photos easier or easily. And um, somewhere between, because I was taking so many photos, of course, got tired of tagging folks um, after a while. And of course, when you aren't tagging folks as much, then the comments and the likes stop, or they slow down rather. And so, it was kind of that beginning stages of that. I don't know what do you call that, probably just a need for validation, right? I think all of us at some point on social media um, kept going back to check for the likes, the comments, the engagement, right? And um, there is this feeling when you don't see the likes, the comments, the engagement that you're either used to or at all. Um, and so yeah, there were points where it was just like, what's the point of putting these on here if nobody's looking at them? And so yeah, I slowed down taking, or at least uploading, excuse me, photos on Facebook. And again, during this time of reflection and thinking about that, it wasn't just that no one was engaging. That was part of it, right? Because to an extent, the engagement does keep us going if you've got it, right? So, but I also had to realize that the reason was deeper, um, and that there were other things going on in my life. Uh, in college, I was in a relationship. It was a good relationship, but we kept it hidden. And we just didn't advertise it out. We weren't posting each other and all that kind of stuff. And I understood that, and honestly, I'm grateful for that because I, now have a habit of not posting partners on social media. We all know, shoot, even I follow the internet couples, and then it's like, well, I'm invested now, right? Y'all done put this on here. Y'all done put this on here. Now we gotta see it through, whether y'all made it or not. Um, but young, and didn't really realize that kind of the hiding was a little bit of that was a red flag. That wasn't good. Um, and um, so tying that back in, right, is that um, when you have a piece of your life like that, a big piece that isn't even able, there's no permission for it to show up, right? So at some point, I was just kind of documenting the small moments, or sorry, I was posting the bigger moments, maybe still taking photos and stuff of the smaller moments, but not posting them. And yeah, just when something like a relationship is, it's a big part of someone's life, no matter how short or long it is. And when that piece can't be shared, and that's, a big moment, then it's just like, then a lot of, even the small, even sometimes the small moments stop, as far as documenting. And so, um, yeah, just if I couldn't show the big moments, it was hard to still do the small moments. Um, and so I think that was an an insertion, an indicator, a cause, a acceleration of the stopping. Um, and so yeah, I kind of lost some of those random things. I can still go back, and I know I've taken like some pictures. I remember having some small moments of pictures of those times, um, but there's just not a lot, right? I'd have to go search for them. um, and so yeah, just the other bigger moments got posted, right? Crossing my sorority, graduating from college, those major milestones still got posted. And that's kind of then became that version of that season, right? Was, and instead of posting all the things, um, it was only the milestones. And I think, that's in some ways how most other people start, right? Is they feel like they have something to post, right? They feel like something is happening in their life to document, and so they do. Um, and so it's interesting that I started a different way and ended up like that, um, kind of in the way that everybody else is. Um, and sometimes meaning can get lost in the crowd as well, right? Like if you're doing something so similar, how either other people typically begin something or are already doing something, then it just, there's kind of this hollowness to it, when it's just what everybody else is doing. If it isn't attached to a why or a purpose, or you know something deeper. Um, and so the hollowness, yeah, it was for me. It wasn't just that the audience wasn't there. That was an effect. It was part of the cause, but it was also because, again, my why had changed, right? Initially, years before that point, and I just didn't realize it, right? Um, and when we look at the engagement piece, it's like, yeah, that can kind of keep you going. But you see, even now, right, it's kind of like a currency. Even with money, there's a certain point in the beginning where it is very encouraging and it can push you to keep going. But there's also a certain point where no matter how many likes and comments and engagement you're getting, or it doesn't matter how much money you're making, there's a kind of a cap to the happiness, right? And so in a similar vein, the audience can't give you your why. It couldn't give me my why. I had to discover that. I had to learn that. And at that point, when I was slowing down, I didn't have it. I didn't have it then. Um, and looking back again, reflecting on that time, when you start kind of feeling a hollowness, you start to wonder if the thing that you used to love even matters. Um, and sometimes it's self validating, right? Um, Maybe by the time you feel the hollowness, um, you you've kind of already checked out, or um, you just start feeling like the thing that you loved before just doesn't matter. And I think that was part of the mistake. It wasn't that stopping was a mistake, it was stopping for the wrong reason. Um, and again, this is something that I'm able to reflect on now, but I didn't have it then. Um, there was so much more there interwoven that we do have to consider life, right? The things that are happening in our lives when we change and make decisions about things. Sometimes it can be fully internal. Sometimes it's fully external. Um, and in a lot of my cases, it's usually some combination of both, to be honest. Um, so yeah, when I felt that hollowness, I felt like it wasn't worth it, and yeah, just gradually, slowly began to stop until I had future bigger moments, and we'll talk about some of those next week. Um, but yeah, for me, stopped because in that hollowness, I didn't have my why, and the hollowness wasn't other people's fault for not engaging. It was mine. It was mine, and so I really had to think and sit with that, because not everything is sunny roses and daisies or whatever. Sometimes even in the reflecting process, you got to sit with the uncomfortableness. And so, my question for you, put it in the comments below. Have you ever stopped doing something because no one was watching? And if you did, um, was that the right reason to stop? I'd love to hear all about it.